Hello and welcome to the Bel-E and Scratch podcast. I'm your host, Bel-E.
And I am your co-host, Scratch.
And today, this is the third and hopefully final installment
Hopefully.
of the Fifth Element little escapade, I suppose.
There's just so much to cover.
So much to cover.
So much to cover.
I think we stopped at the concert of the diva.
Miss Plava Laguna.
Was that the character's name?
Plava Laguna?
That sounds about right. Hang on. I finally, pulled up the IMDb.
I've always had an interest in large craniumed blue chicks.
Clearly. Yeah, the concert was given by... I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce this actress's name.
Oh, she's a singer.
Yeah, I believe she actually sang. Like, that's her.
Yes, that is her voice. That is actually her voice.
Who is, I want to say, singing in either Italian or Latin.
Yes.
I don't think so. I mean, I didn't actually look at any of the factoids of this concert. It's like, oh, did they, is it just, going straight into the, is it Italian or Italian or Latin or like an alien language?
There's an awful lot of tones in there. I know that.
Mm-hmm.
A tremendous amount of tones. So it isn't as much. It's more of the sound than necessarily the message.
Although someone's probably figured out, like, oh, she's actually singing about this, and it's like,
I'm
where's
sure.
that information, buddy?
Yeah, those ultra fine folk that have figured out the Klingon language.
Mm-hmm.
I am sure someone in their ranks has determined exactly what this. I get the impression that she is a she alien.
This was before all that identity politics, which we will not get into just now.
No, we won't. No.
So I'm going to assume it's at least Earth feminine type alien is what I would suspect.
I would say that would be the...
Hey, Wall. Hey, Wall.
Absolutely.
Anyway, so ultimately it's just whatever thing she might be speaking. It's a fantastic concert.
Yes, it is. It starts with Ruby Rod.
Yeah, who is just... I think we covered that. Yeah, I think we covered that last time. Where Ruby Rod is he's like name checking people that are there.
Oh, absolutely.
And then the mercenaries, they show up and they're doing their little incursion.
The Mangalores.
During the concert, there's actually two squads of Mangalores. There's the squad that's right outside the concert hall while everyone's having their concert and the rooms are empty. Then there's squad number 2, which is going directly to the Diva's room and basically trying to ransack it of its stuff.
Oh, yeah. The Mangalorean hit squad.
Uh-huh. Yeah, so Mangalorean squad number 2 is they basically just barge their way into the Diva's room. They shoot up her handlers / bodyguards, and they just start tearing the place apart, just raiding it.
Yeah.
And it cuts between the concert, the Diva singing, and Corbin looking just awestruck as much as Bruce Willis can muster. Well, he's a very stoic awestruck. He's not like eyes directly wide open and mouth open, but he's definitely looks very starstruck.
Yes, or starstruck, dumbstruck,
whatever.
Bruce Willis does a pretty good job of that. that facial expression.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't believe this.
Yeah.
He's really good at that. I'll give it to him. That surprised look, everything that comes. That's what's one of the dynamics about being a good actor, actress, is you have to be able to, even though you've read the script, even though you know the story bit by bit, piece by piece, step by step, you still have to act surprised that what unfolds. You have to act like you've never heard the story. You have to act like you've never heard the dialogue from the other characters. So everything is interjected, is new, is chaos.
That's why it's called acting.
Acting. And he is definitely a master at that. I'll give it to him.
Let's see. It cuts back to Lilu, who is just she just looks mad, like pissed at the Mangalores because they're raiding this room.
Yeah, they're raiding her room.
The Diva's room.
The Diva's room, yes.
Basically, she starts having flashbacks to when the Mangalores shot down that ship that she was on, that she was still in cryostasis, because apparently she was awake when that happened.
And they are... No, go ahead.
She, for some reason, she's in the weird coffin thing.
Sarcophagus.
The weird sarcophagus. And somehow she's conscious when they shot that ship down and exploded that entire species on that ship.
Well, now that you mention it, she is a whammon.
A whammon? Wait, what does that have to do with it?
Them whammon got them special powers.
I kind of agree with that.
Yeah.
So essentially what happens is the next montage is, first, here's the thing, the concert, it starts off very slow, kind of emotionally charged.
Yes. And
then it just very quickly changes tempo into being very fast paced.
There is a crescendo a-coming. It begins to escalate, and as the music increases in intensity, so does the action.
Yeah, basically the concert goes from being very slow and, heartstring pulling to essentially becoming the music video of Lilu whooping some ass.
Yeah.
Like she just, it's to the tone of the music, almost like an actual music video. She just bursts into the room that the Mangalores are raiding, and she goes toe to toe with them.
Yeah, that's her soundtrack right there, backing it's a great touch. This very interesting sound, operatic, tonic,
and it's a backdrop to a fight.
It's a backdrop to Lilo dropping the hammer on these Mangalores that are raiding Plava Laguna's apartment.
Which, for some reason, this hit squad, they didn't give them any of the fancy guns.
No, they didn't.
They gave them standard pistols, but ultimately they didn't give them the specialty Zorg guns that they got earlier in the plot.
Thank God.
Yeah, because otherwise that fight would have been really, really, really just something special. It would have been like she bursts through the door, they shoot her, and the movie's over.
Yeah. On God. Ooh, where'd she go?
Yeah, where'd she go? They sent her out into space. But no, it's a pretty good fight scene. It's pretty good.
There's some gymnastics in there, along with the martial arts. That the scene, whoever the fight choreographer was that staged the scene, it looks pretty good. The character Lilu looks comfortable in the exchanges.
Well, it is the chick from Resident Evil.
Yes,
so.
and and it's still a little campy, but it works.
Oh yeah. Yeah, one thing I could never get over when it comes to any sort of fight scene is, why don't you all just jump on that one individual
at the same time?
Just dogpile them.
It's right. I know they're all just queuing up like, wait, it's not your turn, Fred.
Yeah, it always just kills me because you literally see, these guys in the background. Now, obviously, these characters are not portrayed as being terribly bright, which kind of saves it. But at the same time, it's like, guys, you save the super big one for last, and he just gets He gets sucker punched out of nowhere, and he goes down like a sack of potatoes.
Yeah.
Like, do better. And, of course, this is a little bit of a moot point because,
right.
Lo and behold, the one guy with the special gun, he comes to check on him because apparently they're taking too long trying to look for the stones in this apartment.
Yeah.
And he just kind of meanders in, he just kind of meanders in. He's like, do. He's in the hallway. Doesn't even get to the room. And he hears a commotion while the concert, the fight is going on.
A ruckus.
Yeah, he hears a ruckus. And all of a sudden, one of the mercenaries gets flung 15 feet out of the room.
I thought going through the air and hitting the wall on the other side of the door was a nice touch.
Yeah, he sees that, and he, instead of like charging in with his special gun, that does all this crazy stuff like shooting nets, a flamethrower, an ice thrower, all that sort of stuff, he runs away back to group number 1. Behind the concert hall.
We need to get reinforcements.
Yeah, we need to get reinforcements because someone's just took down an entire platoon of our guys. Whatever. I'm not a soldier, so I don't understand the logic of, the one scout returning. I don't know.
Well,
I guess there's some sense to it because
some plot tension.
Some plot tension. It kicks off the other half of the third act.
Yes.
So, Lilu essentially crushes the mercenaries without really a fight after they supposedly find the stones in a box, which they did not open.
That's correct. Once again. Unopened case.
Yeah, an unopened case that doesn't have the stones in it. They didn't even open the box to check. They just found another old-looking box, decides this must be it.
This must be it.
And that's all she wrote. They don't even open the box.
No.
This becomes apparent because as soon as Lilu is done crushing the mercenaries, the concert wraps up. Well, I anticipate the concert would not have been one song.
I agree.
I think had none of this crazy stuff had happened on the ship with the mercenaries and looting and the espionage to a degree, with Cordelia sneaking onto the flight.
Sure.
I think the concert would have gone on much longer than one song, but the concert essentially just became one song only.
Yes.
Because 2 things happen. After that initial song, obviously everyone's applauding, Ruby Rod is hamming it up. And 2 things happen. One, the scout with the fancy gun goes back to the initial group and says, "Oh, it was an ambush." The leader, who he's the leader because he's the survivor of that explosion.
Of the previous explosion
in Act 1. And he's got a torn ear stalk, whatever the heck this thing is. So that's the leader, the one guy with the defining facial feature, I guess.
Yes.
He's got a torn ear stalk from that explosion, I believe.
There's like part of his ear torn.
Yeah.
And these creatures have these very large, triangular, acutely triangular ears.
Mm-hmm.
And the one that survived the explosion that was set off by Zorg, he's a little damaged. He's ripped his ear down in his arm in a sling.
His arm's in a sling or something like that. Like he's all broke up, but he's the leader.
Right.
So
I guess they carried him in.
I don't know. I mean, a little bit later, Bruce Willis's character say that Mangalores don't fight without their leader, so they probably did have to carry him.
Yeah, we'll break that down in one of my favorite scenes.
We will. That's a little bit later.
So basically what happens is the scout goes back, says we're ambushed. The guy, the leader who's been injured, he's like, all right, if it's war they want, then it's war they get. Okay.
Yeah, and they all the guys start cheering. They start, getting into formation to essentially siege the hotel.
Siege the theater.
Yeah, siege the theater that is filled with nothing but highly affluent bourgeoisie and these little space sailor men in short shorts.
The ushers.
Truly a formidable force.
Yes.
I mean, this is literally a wolf versus a flock of sheep.
Oh yeah, with nobody in between.
With nobody in between.
You think in those types of situations you would have somebody that would be some type of security.
Yeah, you think that,
No.
You think you think even today, you think of like a place where, the most wealthy elite gather. Politicians, rulers, celebrities. Sports celebrities.
Yeah.
Just any celebrities in general. People with wealth.
Yeah.
You would think that they would have something better than I don't know, space sailormen in short shorts to defend them. Seriously, you would think that, like I said, even nowadays, you would think they would have better bodyguards than, those guys. There would, in my opinion, there should have been, Terminators,
something.
Androids. Do they just pop out of the walls, out of the ceiling? They're secretly disguised as architectural statues. They just bust out of that. And they got like garrote wire and
somebody
laser
standing
vision.
there with a sharp stick or something.
Yes, somebody with a sharp stick. Captain Caveman.
Captain Caveman. Yeah. There's nothing.
Nothing.
There's
nobody.
Lambs to the slaughter.
Essentially. Like, seriously, if, I'm assuming space pirates exist in this universe, that place would be easy pickings.
Absolutely.
That's literally it.
Yeah.
So the Mangalores, they burst out of their hiding, facing virtually no resistance. Like, and this is the squad with the special guns too.
Right, and they just start lighting the place up.
Yeah, they just light the place up. They start taking hostages. Everyone's on the floor. Any and all bodyguards that would be there are quickly just, dashed into the ground. Essentially, they just get mowed down.
Dismissed.
Oh yeah. Right into the tile floor.
Absolutely.
Don't bleed on that. That was expensive, Dean.
That black and white marble is not easy to get.
That there is old school Italian.
That's right.
Best in the world, or best on earth at least.
That's what they say.
So they say. So that was also another thing. Is like there's nobody. I mean, obviously there's Corbin Dallas, Bruce Willis.
I know.
But he's not even the hired guard. He's just some dude who happens to be special forces, and technically he's not even supposed to be there.
Well, that's true.
So these guys, they got nothing.
Nothing.
It just boggles my mind. While at the same time, the mercenaries, they basically just start, lighting the place up, as you say.
Yeah.
At the same time, somehow, well, maybe not somehow, but whatever. Somehow, Zorg. Somehow, he apparently had commandeered a ship. I think there was a little scene earlier about the hotel being intercepted by a ship, and they granted permission to land.
Yes.
Because that was also the scene where the Mangalores basically burst into the military command room of the hotel. Right. They tell everyone hands up, and Cornelius is there, and he raises his already cuffed hands.
Well, what happens is that...
And he does not look shocked at all. He just is like, all right, let's get this over with.
These Mangalores at this point are engaged in independent observation because they have been released in their...
You mean operation?
Operation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because what they're doing at the theater is not directed or mandated by Zorg. He's already dealt with them. He blew them up because they couldn't get... So they go in after the stones.
Yeah.
Trying to get their hands on the stones for themselves.
So they basically can leverage them.
Can leverage against Zorg, who blew up their previous...
platoon
group, whatever.
Yeah. They tried to, he basically tried to kill them all, and now they're like, okay, we're going to take your stuff and make you pay through the nose to get it, which ultimately, I get it.
So Zorg is not technically involved in these Mangalores taking this theater down. Zorg is showing up
by himself
to this ship by himself
for some reason.
Well, he's showing up. He says if you want something done right, you got to do it yourself.
Dude, you could at least take like a couple of androids with you, because you don't have to pay those. You just program them to kill stuff.
He did just a couple scenes back just previously blow up his minion. So
yeah, well, okay, that's fair. I'm actually surprised he never actually attempted to blow up the receptionist, because I just can't get over the fact that the receptionist put the shadow being on hold. I'm never getting over this. But anyway, all right, no, we're in the third act. We're not in act 2 or 3 or 1 or 2. Whatever.
I'm sorry, Mr. Lord of Darkness. I'm going to have to put you on hold. Stand by.
Yeah. The concept of that is hilarious in and itself, and they don't even make a big deal out of it. They don't drag it out as a joke. They literally just, I know I keep going over this. This is probably like the 4th or 5th time. The receptionist is literally just, Mr. Zorg, there is a Shadow Lord being on hold for you. Can you please take line 2?
Boop.
Yeah.
They
don't draw attention to it. They act like it's normal when it's actually the death thing in space that's going to kill all of humanity. They put them on hold.
Evil incarnate.
Oh my god. They put
line 2.
Why don't more people do that?
That's beautiful.
I don't know. Maybe you just have to have the right amount of campy, because that would probably seem a little too on the nose. I don't know. Too distracting. So, at the same time of the siege of the hotel and the concert hall, Zorg basically pops up with a special gun, because he's not stupid.
That's correct.
He goes directly to the Diva's room, which, for some reason... No, wait, I think they do establish that he was told that the Diva did have that at some point. I'm not sure.
Well, he arrives to the room.
Yeah, he arrives to the room.
And he arrives to the room, like seconds to minutes after Lilu has dispatched the squad
and
of
she's
Mangalores.
and she's holding the box of the supposed stones, which, at this point we don't know.
Maybe obviously she thinks they're in that box too.
Well, she didn't see them not open the box.
That is correct.
They just said, "Hey, I found it."
I found the box.
And you would logically assume, "Hey, those must be it," because they identified it.
Right.
When in actuality, they're just dumb as rocks.
That's correct.
So Zorg just pops up with a special gun, and he's trying to be mildly southernly gentlemanly about it.
At first,
he's like, "Hey, little lady, how about you hand over that box of stones, and we'll call it even. I'll let you go."
Hey, good looking.
Mm-hmm. Oh, by the way, I think Zorg is supposed to be Texan in this movie.
Really?
I think.
What gives you that? I am so curious as to where that comes from.
Well, after the last podcast where I'm just talking about my favorite scene with, between Cornelius and Zorg in his office, he accidentally chokes on a cherry.
Yeah.
I actually looked that scene up to kind of remember it, and I'm listening to it, and I was like, no, he's supposed to be Southern. That much I do know. Zorg. All right. He's not a Yankee. Not from the South. He's not from the West either. He's not Midwestern. He has an accent.
He does, now that you mention it.
Yeah, he's got some kind of accent.
But his office. Whoops. His office is in New York.
Well.
Right.
Do New Yorks have a drawl? Do New Yorkers have a drawl?
No, they do not.
No, they're very, it's very, kind of aggressive and short. But Zorg never talks aggressive and short with people. He's not. Yeah, he's not like, get in the car.
Get in the car.
He doesn't do that. He has a very, he kind of slow.
Now that you mention it, yes, I agree.
Slowed tone to a degree.
Wait a minute.
But here's the thing. He doesn't sound like, he's not from Alabama, because he does not sound like that. No. He's also obviously not from Louisiana. Not Georgia, maybe Georgia. No, actually not Georgia.
The English dialect that he comes from is the basis for the Southern dialect.
Sure.
So, he can play that very well.
So, and here's the thing. In most media, there's, let's see, the most common Southern accents typically is Virginian, Louisiana, Alabama, Georgia to a degree. Well, Louisiana is very obvious. You just have to start speaking gibberish.
Right.
Well, it's not gibberish. It just sounds gibberish to people who don't speak Creole or don't understand Creole.
That's correct.
And then there's Texan. So, there's not there's not a super distinct enough dialect for North or South Carolina in most of these Tennessee sorta.
Yeah.
So logically it would have to be Texan. He would have to be Texan.
Works for me.
I mean, I don't know.
And the big gun. Hey, look at that.
Yeah.
He's an arms dealer.
Yeah, kind of makes sense.
Sure.
And if you're gonna go for a southern ruthless businessman, Texas.
Why not?
I mean, no, it makes sense, doesn't it?
It does to me.
Because you don't really see a lot of ruthless businessmen from Louisiana or Georgia.
Not someone that carries such a serious stage presence.
Yeah.
But Louisiana dialect in film is always...
They usually give it to, like, the outsider or the idiot.
There's definitely a comedy element to it.
Yeah.
You know.
Because to non-native listeners, essentially it sounds like they're speaking the banjo. I'm not trying to be insulting. I'm not trying to be insulting to people from Louisiana. I'm just telling you that's what I'm just saying. That's what it sounds like if you're not from there. It sounds like they're speaking banjo.
Is it happy hour? If it is, they're not going to hear any of this.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Go have another drink.
Order one for me, please.
Exactly.
Anyway, so I think he's supposed to be Texan.
Oh, that works.
Sure, it works.
I'll accept that.
Yeah.
No, you're right. He is not, regardless of where his office is located in the film, he definitely does not have a
New York accent.
South of the Mason-Dixon line accent. That is correct. He does not.
So, essentially, Zorg, he kind of tries, he basically tries to give her, like, an opportunity to hand over the box without a fight, which she, like...
Well, he's an evil dude.
He's an evil dude, so he's probably going to shoot her. Yeah, so he's going to shoot her regardless. But I guess either Lilu, like the character, didn't understand that because she's still kind of newish to this modern world with these abstract moralities.
Sure.
/ lack of moralities.
Understanding who she can and can't trust.
Still, yeah, I mean, she can trust Corbin, that's about it.
Yeah.
But some Joe Schmo on the street,
especially a guy standing there with a
big gun.
Big old gun.
So she throws the box at him, you know, which he kind of catches, sort of, because this gun
has this gun trained on her.
Yeah, and she just gymnastics her way into the ventilation system, to which I'm just like, okay, so you think this is the box of stones? Why did you throw that at him? And two, how did you know you could get away from him using the ventilation system?
I think that was the closest exit.
True, but I'm just
based on where, because he was standing, there was one way in and one way out, and he was standing, he had just stepped through the door.
I'm just saying, like, why not just, I'm just saying, why not just, throw the box, and then drop kick him? She's proven herself a capable fighter.
Definitely an option.
It should have been an option. I mean, she's strong.
Maybe she was sick that day in martial arts class.
Well, anyway, Lilu's in the ventilation system. Zorg basically he kind of puts the box to the side and just starts shooting the ceiling.
Right.
And then it just cuts between him shooting the ceiling, trying to shoot Lilu, and it cuts back and forth between that and the concert hall being sieged
by the Mangalores.
Yeah, at some point they even bring out this bulletproof mortar / turret.
That does look a lot like a very heavy duty weapon. I mean, it you know, there's guns that you carry, and then there's the big, you know,
then there's the turrets, which are stationary.
The turrets, which are stationary, and then there's those big guns that are a little more mobile.
What, you mean like artillery?
Like anti-aircraft kind of stuff.
That technically counts as artillery.
Yeah. Sure.
So It's basically chaos at this point. You know, Corbin's trying to stay alive. Ruby Rod is somehow
cats and dogs
still alive.
living together.
Yeah.
Old Testament type stuff.
Yeah. And, you know, obviously there's hostages being taken, the command room is being seized, Zorg is shooting the ceiling. It's just a real downer of an event. And then at some point, I'm trying to remember.
Bruce Willis is in the front row.
Yeah, he's in the front row.
Because he's a guest. He won a contest.
Yeah, and he's Ruby Rod's guest, so he's like right next to him.
And then the Plava Laguna.
Yeah.
Yeah, she takes a bullet.
Yeah, she takes a bullet because she's the most obvious target.
Or a projectile, whatever they're shooting out of those guns.
Something. We'll just say bullets.
Sure.
It's easy that way. She falls to the ground, and Corbin, he just kind of reaches out and pulls her underneath the seat.
Yeah, pulls her off the front of the stage.
Yeah, that's the person that he was there to make contact with to begin with, so he needs to rescue his contact. And then it cuts between him essentially interrogating her as she lays dying.
Asking soft questions. Asking soft questions.
Yes. So, yeah.
And she informs him that the stones, quote unquote, are in me. So apparently the 4 stones that have been, or supposedly been in the two suitcases that the Mangalores have been tracking, the stones are actually inside the person, the body of the singer, Miss Plava Laguna.
Yeah.
And
they never elaborate as to how they were placed within her torso.
I really don't want to know that one.
Yeah, me neither. Yeah, this is like that's some behind the scenes stuff we don't even know.
That's one of those plot devices that it does seem to fit, but you really don't want to know the backstory of how those.
Yeah, I mean, there's some parts of this movie where I do want to know the backstory of, like, why is Lilu the fifth element? Was she originally some sort of alien or human? What made her special? What is the big ball of death in space? What's that about? Where did that come from? How do these things relate to each other, other than one destroys the other versus the other? But the whole smuggling of the sacred stones inside the anatomy of the diva, that's one I do not need some lore on.
That's correct. And I'm not used to that particular dynamic.
Yeah.
Unless you're in prison.
Hey.
I don't know why. But it works. I mean, it does. And then all of a sudden Bruce Willis is laying there.
And he just she dies, and he just starts pulling the stones out of her anatomy.
He reaches into the wound created by the gunshot from the Mangalores and begins to pull these 4 earth element stones out.
And Ruby Rod just looks horrified.
He's losing her mind.
Yes. And, before she dies, the diva is like, you must protect Lilu. She needs you, and, she needs your love. She's actually very fragile. And right before she says that, a couple minutes prior, Zorg eventually finds her in the ventilation system, and she gets kind of lit up.
Yes.
Like, nothing fatal, like instantaneously fatal, but it's very clear there's some blood loss at play.
He definitely uses.
He nailed her.
Yeah, he uses this gun to light the ceiling up while she's crawling around in the ventilation system in the ceiling. And she becomes trapped.
Yep. So Lilu is basically bawling her eyes out because she's in a lot of pain because she just got lit up, which is understandable.
Right.
And at the same time as Corbin discovers that these stones are within the anatomy of the diva, Zorg goes back to his ship, opens the mysterious box, starts laughing like a madman, closes it, opens it back up, closes it again, and starts whimpering, "They're not here." Because that wasn't where the stones were either.
That's correct. He didn't look in the box either.
Yeah, he didn't look in the box either until he got back to his ship. Now, granted, the ship is still in the docking area, but still, he at least looked before he took off. I give him credit for that.
Yep.
He did something. I'm trying to remember what comes after that. Let's see. Corbin gets the stones. He puts the stones in the jacket. He gives the jacket to Ruby Rod, tells him, you better guard this with your life.
Yep.
He gets a gun from a downed Mangalore. Not the big fancy gun, like a little sidearm pistol.
Yep.
And, let's see, I think Ruby Rod somehow has to hold that pistol against one of the Mangalore's head, and he accidentally shoots him in the head.
And the entire time, Ruby Rod's broadcast is going out.
Yeah, the entire time.
So the entire time, the event is being broadcast out to the universe, and you see him cut away to where the
president and the general that was frozen.
Hearing Ruby Rod reporting play-by-play on what's going on.
Which, to be fair, it's not the worst type of reporting, I suppose.
It does work.
It works. I mean, this is a life or death situation.
It's just kind of interesting that they're all sitting there listening like it's some type of radio soap opera.
Oh yeah. And then at some point, the general goes, hey, I've got one of my best men on that ship. He will take care of this in no time.
That's correct.
And then a split second, the next cut is Corbin with a gun, Ruby Rod in tow, just mowing down the Mangalores as he sees them. Very calculated John Wick style before John Wick was a thing.
Yes.
And that's when the Mangalores pop out that little turret thing that I'm assuming they didn't bring with them, but I ain't too sure about that.
Yeah, it does just kind of show up.
Yeah, it's like this turret with a bulletproof casing and a couple of missiles because necessary.
Yes.
Very, very necessary.
I don't have any more bullets. Have you seen my missiles?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got a missile crisis over here.
Missile crisis.
And then there's just a whole sequence of events to a bomb being blown up, or not a bomb, a grenade being blown up, some kind of grenade being blown up, Corbin and Ruby basically being, Corbin is essentially escorting Ruby Rod across a battlefield as he's mowing people down.
He's trying to get out of the line of fire.
Yeah, Ruby Rod is screaming incoherently, very, very high pitched.
Which Chris Tucker does a tremendous job.
Oh yeah.
Scream. That's a.
I think it's him.
No, that's him.
Okay. Yeah, he is just doing this.
Him.
Yeah. Chris Tucker is just doing this high pitched siren scream.
But he's like an octave and a half above high C. I mean, he is piercing.
Oh yeah. It is just the most agonizing thing you will ever hear. It'd be funny if he didn't do it all that often, in my opinion.
It does wear on you.
It does wear as the battle goes on.
It does.
Corbin gets trapped behind a bar, he gets trapped behind the bar cart or something like that.
No, he dives over where the bar is in the middle of the
room.
When you go into you go into a movie theater.
Yeah.
You go into a theater. There's the concession area.
That's it. Concession stand.
Concession area. Then you go through the doors into the theater. The concession area here has a large bar, alcoholic drink mix, that type of thing bar.
Why not?
And they basically he basically dives over the bar. Behind the and to where the bartender would be standing.
Yeah, to get away from the turret with the missiles on it.
That's correct.
Let's see. There's I'm trying to remember the sequence of events. This is a pretty chaotic fight.
It's very chaotic,
which is good.
It was very good. The
very
editing,
well shot.
Very well shot. The action is good.
Just hard to recount.
It is very. It's complex. I mean, it's multi-layered.
Mm-hmm. Because you got two individuals you got to keep your eye on.
Yeah, I mean, you got a couple of storylines going on at the same time. You got Bruce Willis trying to survive. You got Ruby Rod trying to survive. You got Bruce Willis trying to save Ruby Rod.
You got Lilu in the other room bleeding out.
Whatever
Cornelius is doing.
Whatever
the military is doing, which is nothing.
Which is absolutely nothing.
Seriously, they don't even have a contingency plan. What kind of dog and pony show is this?
Dog and pony show.
Yeah, but anyway, so I'm trying to remember. He loses the gun. The deaf guy that they mentioned earlier in the theater, who is there for a gag.
Yeah, he's definitely there for a gag.
Yeah, because you have a deaf guy at a concert where there's music.
I hadn't really thought about that.
Look, I'm not
Tone deaf.
Stone deaf.
Stone deaf. Yeah.
I believe Ruby Rod refers to him as stone deaf.
Stone deaf. Yeah.
So Bruce Willis, while he's ducked under the concession stand, he motions to this deaf guy that they mentioned earlier, and he's like, hey, give me the gun.
There's like a gun. Bruce Willis is, he ends up over the bar. He loses his weapon in the motion, and this celebrity that he introduces that Ruby Rod introduces prior to the concert is there. And he's trying to get him to. There's a gun near this guy, and Bruce Willis's character Corbin is trying to get the deaf celebrity,
to give him the gun.
So he keeps asking for it. He's like, "Throw me the gun! Throw me the gun!" There just happens to be a pool table in the concession area.
Yeah.
So there's pool balls on the floor, and the deaf guy grabs a couple of the pool balls and throws them over to Bruce Willis. That's one of the most underrated scenes I've ever seen.
Yeah. Bruce Willis is he's just like, hey, thanks man. And the deaf guy's like, no problem. Yeah, I mean, without saying anything.
Yeah.
So the Mangalores find him, they get him up on his feet, and I can't remember what what happens?
Ruby Rod's on the floor above.
Yeah, he's on the second floor, and Corbin is motioning for Ruby Rod to move to a different spot, and Ruby Rod's like, Corbin's signaling to me. I don't know what he's trying to say. And
wait a minute.
At some point, Corbin he steps on a board, which. The Mangalore is also on the other side of the board, and it launches the Merc up through the ceiling.
Yes.
And the guy is just firing away, and does he get the gun from that mercenary and then continue shooting and eventually takes out the turret guy?
Well, eventually the part of the ceiling that Ruby Rod is laying on, they basically weaken with a bunch of explosions and gunshots, and it drops down through the.
And Ruby Rod continues to scream.
The ceiling collapses while Ruby Rod screams.
Yeah, that must be terrible for the listeners who are listening across the entire galaxy. They're expecting to hear a concert, and all they're hearing is.
It's freaking brutal.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's not quite as broken as that. It's way more strong, but. Yeah.
It's something you won't forget, that's for sure.
No.
Once again, octave and a half above high C.
For people who understand what that means. I'm not one of those people. I interpret that as, dang. He got a high-pitched voice. Yeah.
So they eventually get out of this situation where all these Mangalores are shooting at Bruce Willis and Ruby Rod.
Yeah, everyone is basically, dead at this point. Well, not everyone. All the Mangalores are dead. The hostages are fine. And they go to the security room.
Yes.
Okay, you can go ahead.
All
talk
right.
About your favorite.
It's one of my favorite scenes. Okay, they have dispatched with the group that
they dispatched the grunts.
Yeah, the grunts that were taken to the theater.
Mm-hmm.
and apparently the primary group of Mangalores has taken over the ship. They have gone to the captain's operations area. They've gone in there, the control room, and they have taken the captain and the crew hostage. Ooh.
Which incredibly useless crew.
incredibly useless crew.
Oh my god.
And then Bruce Willis shows up, and apparently, Bruce Willis being the ex-military guy, the ex-special forces guy, whatever that means.
I think he talks to one of the short sailors.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah, that guy.
I can't think of his name, but he's been in a couple of things.
Oh, yeah. But,
he was in Mouse Hunt.
Yeah, he was. One of the brothers in Mouse Hunt.
He was one of the brothers in Mouse
Nathan
Hunt.
Lane.
He was the younger brother in Mouse Hunt. He's been in a few things.
I'm pretty sure I can find his name.
So they basically are, and Bruce Willis shows up and says, "Anybody talk to the leader?" And
that's when he says that Mangalores will not fight without the leader.
Mangalores will not fight for the leader. And
Lee Evans. Yeah.
Lee Evans, cool. So Bruce Willis's character says to Lee Evans's character, I think he's like a ship steward or something.
Yeah, something like an underling.
Yeah.
He asks him, "Who's the leader?"
And can he step in here and negotiate for him? And he was like, yeah, sure, cause and then Bruce Willis charged in the door. They've got the crew hostage, and one of them is holding a gun to the head of Vito, the priest, Vito Cornelius.
Yeah. That's the leader.
And so Bruce Willis just walks in the door, pulls out a pistol, and kills the guy, kills the leader of the Mangalores. No words exchanged.
Just walks in, bop,
bang.
Bop.
Yeah, and that's it.
Yeah, and the leader, he just slowly drops.
He just drops.
And as soon as he drops, the other Mangalores, they're just like, they're
a rudderless ship.
They basically just kind of slowly take the guns away from the hostages' heads, and they're just looking around like, "What do we do?"
And Bruce Willis says, "Anybody else want to negotiate?" And then they go back. The scene I like is when they go back. They jump cut from that scene to back where the president is talking to the general, the military guy. Right before the jump cut, Lee
Evans' character talks to Ruby Rod, and he says, "Man, where did he learn to negotiate?"
I wonder where he learned to negotiate like that.
And it cuts back to the president and talks to the general. And he goes, "Gee, I wonder." And
then the general reaches up and he does this like classic Rodney Dangerfield tie tug, where he kind of cranes his neck and adjusts his tie.
Yeah, he's very nervous he's about to lose his job.
I wonder. Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, that's funny. So, peace is restored to the ship. Ruby Rod is attempting to proceed like normal. Like, "Ladies and gentlemen, I have survived a traumatizing event," while he's getting like his finger like stitched up or something.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I guess they they prick the skin too roughly, and he goes, "Ow! What's the matter with you?"
Yeah, and slaps the guy who's messing around with his wound.
Yeah, let's see. I think Bruce Willis and Cornelius, they talked a little bit, and I almost forgot. When Zorg, before he left with the box of supposed stones on the doorway, the door frame to the Diva's. Oh yeah. He puts a bomb.
He leaves a bomb. He takes the case that he wants, and he leaves another case with a bomb in it.
Yeah.
And then on his ship, he realizes that the case that he has the stones, or the case does not have the stones.
Yep.
So he goes back to where he left the bomb.
I don't know. I actually don't remember. Like, there's a part where he kind of dips out, probably after the fighting died down. He kind of dips out because he doesn't want to get caught by the very useless military.
Yeah, so useless you don't even know they're there.
Yeah, exactly. So at some point, Cornelius finds like the control point for the bomb on the side of the door. No. Ruby Rod does. Ruby Rod finds he finds that thing on the door, and he's like, "Hey, my man," gesturing to Cornelius.
Yeah.
And Ruby Rod's like, "Hey, what's this? The dial with all the buttons and the flashing and all that on it." Cornelius looks at it for a good while.
He does.
And then he goes and he looks at Ruby Rod and he goes, it. And Ruby responds with, no, because if it was a bomb, all these hotels have these bomb detectors, so it can't be a bomb. And the second he says that, alarms start going off, lights start flashing, and whatever automated part of the hotel...
Evacuation.
Yeah, it starts the evacuation process because there's a bomb in the hotel.
Right.
And it's going to go off. So everyone, after surviving nearly getting shot and looted,
yeah,
they now immediately have to go to the emergency shuttles, leave behind all their belongings and all their stuff, have to get off the ship as quick as humanly possible.
Yes.
Because it's about to explode.
About to go down.
Yeah, somewhere in there, Zorg is like hiding out or something. I'm not sure what happened.
Well, he figures out that he doesn't have the stones in the case that he thought he did, then, so he goes back
into the hotel. I'm assuming he just starts looking for it. I'm assuming he just starts looking because Bruce Willis doesn't run into him. Cornelius don't run it. Like the main cast, they don't run into him. They get, Bruce Willis gets Lilu into the med bay, and then the bomb detection thing that happens.
Yes.
And somewhere in those between points, the main cast, Cornelius, Ruby Rod, Corbin, and Lilu, I think that's it, all four of them, and they basically hijack Zorg's ship that he used to to get on the hotel. And
well, when Zorg comes back, he originally left.
Yeah.
He set a bomb.
Yeah, he set a bomb because.
And when he comes back, he defuses the bomb he set.
Yeah, he puts a card in the thing on the doorframe that Ruby Rod was pointing at to stop the bomb 5 seconds before it goes off.
But the Mangalores,
apparently they had their own bomb.
They had their own bomb.
For some reason?
And set it, to
5 seconds.
Yeah.
Just to spite Zorg, I believe.
It's kind of like, hey...
You blew us up, we blow you up.
We blow you up, so revenge is mine, or revenge is sweet.
The last surviving Mangalore... He sets their own bomb for 5 seconds, says "for honor," dies, and then the bomb goes off, and the entire hotel explodes. While the escape ship's already left. Corbin and the crew.
Actually, the escape ship didn't they escape on Zorg's?
They escape on Zorg's ship. I'm just saying that the civilian evacuation ships they already went.
Yes,
they already went.
Yes.
So. They basically Corbin has he's got the stones, he's got Lilu, he's got the priest, he's got Ruby Rod for some reason, who is now a main character.
Right. And the
question mark? Yes.
And he's got to get, apparently according to Vito Cornelius, he's got to get all these
he's got to get everything to this temple that was from the beginning of the movie.
These ingredients to the original temple that you see in the beginning of the film out in the desert, Egyptian themed, and perform a ritual, an activation.
We meet up with the apprentice priest again.
Yes.
Who he was given the key to unlock the temple and set everything up.
So they get in there, they get the stones,
and by this point, the ball of death, I guess, just senses that these ingredients have made it to the final destination,
And it's bearing down on the earth.
And it's bearing down on the earth, just annihilating anything that gets in its way.
That's correct.
So they only have minutes to solve this thing. While this is happening, there's actually something that they that was used earlier in the movie to teach Lilu how to, words that, English words and all that. There was like some sort of telescreen that she
oh yeah.
She like types in certain key phrases.
Homeschooling.
Yeah, like homeschooling. And somehow she gets to a telescreen that's on Zorg's ship, and she types in the word war, and it flashes all of these images of battles and desolation and suffering, pictures of I don't want to say the thing that happened to certain ethnic groups back in the 40s and 30s, because it's probably going to get us flagged.
Basically, what happens is they create a moral dilemma.
Yeah.
For Lilu is Lilu is subjected to the negative side of human existence.
Yeah,
and
because
life.
because
war, pain, blood, death.
And the last shot is of the a picture of the atomic explosion, the mushroom cloud, which just breaks her.
So there's this element of her that, yes, I know I'm the fifth element and I'm supposed to be saving existence and mankind, but are you really worth saving?
Yes.
That comes into play.
That a little bit later.
It does, but that's it kind of de-emphasizes her drive or her spirit. She's all gung ho to do this thing, and all of a sudden there's this moral question of, does this group of people need to survive?
I mean, she even asks that once, once everything gets set. What's the point of saving life when all you do is destroy it?
Right.
But that's a little bit later.
Yeah.
So, she is just heartbroken over the fact that, the whole thing of, humanity is, predisposed to war with itself and all that fun stuff.
Yes.
So they finally get into the temple, and they're setting everything up, cleaning everything off, all the stones. The stones is, earth... let's see. I know it's the Avatar elements. Earth. Let's see, it's earth, wind, fire, and water.
Earth.
Did I just name the band off?
Earth.
Never mind.
Wind, fire,
water. Yeah, it's basically the Avatar elements.
Or is it wind? Earth, wind.
It's wind.
Earth, wind,
fire, water.
Water. Yeah.
Anyway, so they line everything up with the squiggles on the little pedestals, and then there's like a little
each stone has a marking on it that
identifies
it to be either earth
or wind or each individual stone. They put them on the pedestals.
Each pedestal.
And they're just not doing anything.
Correct.
So, Corbin asks the priest, it's like, okay, we put him on the pedestals, what do we do now? And he doesn't know. Because he's never gotten that far.
They put him on the pedestal and nothing happens.
Yeah.
And so they're trying to figure out how to activate.
Yeah, if they need to be activated.
If they need to be activated and how to activate them. So they're messing around with the stones. Each stone has its own pedestal. Lilu is on a big stone circle in the middle of these 4 stones.
Yeah, she's all patched up, but she's kind of out of it after being shot a bunch.
Shot and beat up and all that.
All that fun stuff. Yeah, not exactly murder, sunshine, and rainbows going on over there.
Strawberry alarm clock. Yeah, exactly.
So at some point, the apprentice, he is like right on the pedestal for wind, I believe.
Yes, wind.
While the other guys are just like looking at the other stones at every angle, like just thinking and muttering to themselves like what they could possibly do.
They're looking for a light switch.
They're looking for some kind of switch or a button. And David, who is just the apprentice, I believe, is the character's named David.
Yes.
The apprentice, he's just, he just goes kind of nihilistic. And he's got his hands on the altar, or the pedestal where the stone is. The stone is right between his forearms, and he just goes, "We're not gonna make it." And as soon as he breathes out, the stone moves.
Yeah, it's the wind stone. So he breathes across the wind stone, and it activates it.
Well, it opens the stone up a little. It opens the stone,
yeah.
And there's like a mad dash where they're like asking him, like, what did he do? What did he do to open the stone? And he's like, I put my hands right here. And I said, he says it to the stone instead of out loud. He says, we're not going to make it. To the stone. and then he says, and that's it. And everyone just exhales. And that's what pops the stone open. They all breathe on the stone, the wind stone,
then
and
they
it
get
opens it. And then they get it. Earth for earth, fire for fire, water for water. Go.
Right.
So they throw the sand inside the temple on the earth.
On the earth stone, which activates it.
Cornelius wipes sweat off his brow and drains it on the water stone.
A couple of drops on the water stone, which activates it. Yes.
And Ruby Rod is like, I got no fire. I used to smoke. If I knew the smoking would help, I wouldn't have given it up. All that.
Right.
And Corbin, he reaches into his pocket. He pulls out a match because he is trying to quit smoking.
Right, he's trying to quit smoking. He's smoking in the beginning of the
movie,
or he tried to.
Yes,
and in the beginning of the movie, he ends up with one match left.
Yeah, he's got one match left. He says, "Don't breathe," and he flicks the match.
Strikes the match.
Strikes the match, and everyone stops breathing, but they're staring at it, and they're waiting. And he puts the match on the stone, and it activates.
Ooh.
So all the stones are activated.
Now the only thing...
The death ball is hurling towards the Earth at Mach 5.
It's in the stratosphere.
It just passed Saturn.
Yeah.
And that's when Lilu's like, what's the point of saving life if all you do is destroy it?
Yeah, she's having this, like I said, moral dilemma where she's trying to determine whether she wants to save life that takes life.
Yeah, or just let it go.
But the circle of life is the circle of life.
Yes.
Life, death, life, death.
You can't have one without the other.
Can't have one without the other, yeah.
This is typically why in a lot of fiction you see the pursuit of immortality as being something that is not noble, is being selfish.
That's a good point.
It's typically depicted as being selfish.
You're correct. I don't ever remember immortality being something
positive.
I
mean, to a degree, not entirely. In Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, when they go find spoilers. Yeah, I know the movie is like 40 years old or some odd number, but just chill. Some more spoilers on top of the Fifth Element for you.
Yeah.
They eventually find the Holy Grail, the Cup of Christ.
Right.
And the reason why this is, in my opinion, this is sort of half good morality versus non-good morality, the pursuit of immortality with this cup of everlasting life.
As the story goes.
Yeah. Indiana Jones, he wants to find this cup to heal his father who had been shot. Now, obviously, this is like back in World War II. A gunshot is more than likely gonna be it.
Pretty much.
So he takes the cup back to heal his father's wound. Now actually, Indiana Jones, he does drink from the cup
to make sure
that he wouldn't die.
Yeah, they never addressed that.
Yeah, so wouldn't that automatically mean he is also immortal?
Yes.
Obviously it means he ages because the night age.
But
it means everlasting life, not everlasting youth. So I'm just like, wait. So what about the? I know not everyone likes the fourth movie. I thought it was okay.
Crystal Skull.
Crystal Skull.
Yeah,
they didn't do as good of a job as I thought they should have.
it wasn't bad.
Yeah, Shia LaBeouf. I think they needed to get somebody else. Harrison Ford. He was pretty good. I didn't mind the Russians at all. The alien stuff. It's a little hard right. Like, that's what Indiana Jones did. Was the first movie was the Ark of the Covenant, a Judeo-Christian relic.
Right.
The second movie, it was these Sean Karn stones. This is a Hindu. I'm not an expert on Hindu mythology, so someone's got to forget Hindu mythology, and then it goes back to strictly pretty much
Shiva,
which is
the god of death.
Shiva is a god of many things, but
yes, Shiva is a god of many things.
But that's kind of the main thing to non-Hindu folk who are not experts in this field. Shiva is typically known as a god of death per se.
Yeah.
And not to muddy the waters, and then it goes back to strictly this Christian mythology of the cup of Christ, because that's not Judeo, but we're not going to get into that.
Yeah.
So we're not going to get into that today.
No.
So I think I'm not saying the alien thing was a bad move, but it was a very hard right to the other mythologies that was explored in the previous 3 movies. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm not saying
once you address going after the Holy Grail,
and
you've already addressed going after the Ark of the Covenant so far
and these Sean Karn stones, what else is there?
Yeah, what else is there?
Lance of Longinus.
Yeah, but that's kind of obscure. That relates back to Christ.
I'm trying to think. Greece mythology, Egyptian mythology.
Yeah,
like the gold. I'm not sure if this is an actual mythology or this was invented by Hollywood. The golden fleece that I think Jason was after.
That's a part of the Homer's Iliad, I believe, isn't it?
Just things of the Homer's Iliad. They could have gone to Mayan. That would have been good. Mayan mythology, the Incas.
But that's just not a mythology that's common enough that everybody would know about it.
Hey, if they really wanted to shake things up, you could have gone after, I don't know, Dracula or something.
Well,
I know it would have been campy, but at the very least,
that would have been really campy.
But at the very least, it would have. I know we're kind of stalling on the ending to The Fifth Element, but this is actually something I've always been curious about.
And that would be.
Let's see. I'm not an expert on the history of vampires.
Yeah.
Stop laughing. Stop laughing.
You are no longer my child.
Hey.
What's up with that? Okay, you're not an authority.
I am not an authority on the history of vampires, but there is one thing I've always been curious about.
Uh-huh.
Now, this is definitely a combination of the Bram Stoker novel and Francis Ford Coppola muddying the waters with his interpretation of Dracula. But there's always been something I've been curious about.
Yeah.
Prior to Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula, to my knowledge, and even in the book, I have the book, the Dracula, the Bram Stoker novel book.
Yes.
Dracula is not referred to as Vlad Tepes, like any of them, because there was like 2, 3, or 4 of them.
I don't think the original stories. I think the legend.
Yeah, the legend
is based on Vlad Tepes. I don't. That didn't make its way into the original Once again, I mean, you go back to you take a historical figure, you make like a graphic novel, a pop culture kind
that
of
does
story.
happen.
It does happen.
It happens a lot with let's see. Those Victorian era, not Victorian era, like those the Elizabethan era historical dramas with Mary Queen of Scots,
Yes.
Queen Elizabeth I,
Yes.
Queen
I know those very
Victoria.
well. Yes.
Yeah, you do, don't
I do.
you?
Yes.
Outlander. There's all sorts of historical fiction stuff, which I don't have a problem with.
Tons of it.
But there was always something one thing I didn't understand was, I believe in the original novel, which I'm assuming the original, the Vlad the Impaler, he was an inspiration for that book. Because how could he not?
Well, I mean, I don't know if
Jesus.
I don't know if I really don't.
He's probably the main reason why the Geneva Convention outlaws impalement. Let's be honest, he's it. He set the precedent.
If there is such a thing, yes, I would imagine.
Yeah, he set that precedent. Anyone tries to invade his land.
800 years ago, when they was putting people on top of big poles of wood spikes.
Oh, look, I'm just saying.
Don't do that.
Hey, look,
sure.
I'm just saying. I don't know the entire backstory of the war between him and
who does?
I think the Ottoman Empire. I'm not a historian.
Yes, the Ottoman.
Basically, I think it was the Ottomans who were trying to invade Romania.
Romania, Transylvania, one of
I think Transylvania was
Slavic area.
That Slavic area. I think Transylvania is like a province /
sure.
Like a province of Romania. I believe so, because it still exists.
Yeah.
It can't not exist.
Sure.
So the Ottoman Empire were trying to invade Romania, and for some reason, again, I'm not a historian, I have not taken in these accounts, so if someone from the future is like, you're wrong, well, hey, guess what? I don't know the whole story. I'm not a historian, I'm not from either side of that particular fence.
Right.
So during the invasion, Vlad Tepes the Third, one of them, because there was, like I said, 3 or 4 ish.
All right.
Apparently, when he was put in charge of a particular region or something like that, he was basically in charge of a particular army. He decided, hey, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna not only defeat these armies of the Ottoman Empire, but I'm going to send a message so they never come over here again.
Right.
So he, what was it, like 20,000 people impaled? Thousands. Like
alive.
A lot. Like, yeah, that's the whole point of impalement.
Impaled alive.
Yeah, impaled alive. Like, this wasn't like they defeat them in battle, cut the heads off of the dead bodies, and then put them on pikes. No, they were alive.
They were prisoners. Yes.
Yeah, they were alive, and probably.
But he didn't do any kind of for some kind of nefarious where I'm going to have these people and these dead people and I'm going to blood and blah blah blah.
Yeah,
he was basically using it as I want our enemies to understand what is waiting for them if they continue to invade our land.
Which, hey, guess what? It worked.
Yes, it did.
Because, to my knowledge, the Ottoman Empire was like, hey, let's not go back over there. Let's not do that.
Yeah, let's not do that.
Let's not do that. And I believe, even to this day, that particular Vlad Tepes who did that, and despite the fact that that's horrifying, I mean, back then, you gotta do what you gotta do to protect your country.
Sure.
There was no UN back there. There was no way of negotiation. There was no table.
No League of Nations.
No
oh my God.
Yeah, no League of Nations. There was no way to negotiate anything.
No,
not really.
No.
So he basically did what he had to do to essentially tell them to get off his lawn and stay off it.
Stay off my lawn.
So in Romania, I believe he is still regarded as a national hero.
I think you're right.
So he's regarded as he's a big deal in Romania because he essentially saved the country or whatever territory he was in charge of.
Yes.
Despite the fact that impalement is horrifying, he did what he had to do, and he's regarded as a hero.
Yes.
So that that brings me back to the Dracula point. For some reason, in the Francis Ford Coppola, now obviously this had to have been contrived because of a love story, because necessary, I guess.
Necessary?
Well, here's the thing. In the original Bram Stoker novel, it's kind of boring. Like, not just by today's standards, just by any standards.
I think the very suggestion of a creature that existed like that in itself was...
kind of groundbreaking.
Yes.
Which, yes. It is groundbreaking.
Well, to put it, a lot of it, it depends on who the writer is. If they are able to take... I am sure they were not the original... the original... when they embraced that type of concept, I don't think they were the original people to do it, but they just described it in a manner that was relatable to the time. And
and I don't believe Dracula was the first vampire novel. I think
no,
Carmilla came a couple decades before that, which I liked Carmilla. I haven't read it in a couple years. Can't find a decent copy of it in physical edition. I don't want a PDF, but it's pretty good.
All right.
So yeah, I know.
I don't know that one.
Long story. I kind of don't want to get into it.
Good.
But here's the thing. In the original Dracula novel, it's written via articles and letters to different people and journal entries. But after the first couple of chapters in the original Bram Stoker novel, where Dracula goes from an old man to a young man, he kind of dips out of the story.
Yeah.
Basically, after the beginning of the novel, Dracula is reduced to, the main character, he's going into a room to talk to somebody. Oh no, that person, they got chomped on by Dracula, and he disappears back into the shadows. It's not, and that's kind of it up until the end, where Dracula, he's not even a active antagonist.
No,
not really.
Not really.
So I get why, and they kind of keep that up throughout most history. Bela Lugosi, he has a little bit more screen time because how could you not?
How could you not?
With Bela Lugosi.
Oh, we can't get into that.
Oh, not today.
I never drink wine.
Let's see, and then the Christopher Lee and Hammer horror movies.
Oh, just wonderful.
Yeah. And then there was the Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula, where they give more backstory to Dracula, and by connecting him, by basically saying he is the same Vlad Tepes that impaled all those people.
And who plays Dracula in this movie? Is this the segue you're searching for?
No, it was not.
I don't know.
In Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula, the role of Dracula is played by Gary Oldman.
Gary Oldman. Zorg. Yeah. What do these have in common? What is she doing going off on that tangent? Zorg.
That was not the segue I was looking for.
I know it wasn't.
Anyway, so I just don't understand why after that they basically kept connecting Dracula to Vlad Tepes, because I'm just like, guys, that dude was real. He was a man.
I think there's a high possibility
he was a hero
that
at some point.
The story of Dracula had very, very little to do other than, oh, hey, you ever hear about this barbarian from, like, I don't know, 4 AD or something, it helps people get a backstory and understand how someone could be so bloodthirsty, that sort of thing. But ultimately, I don't see the connection.
Oh, well, the main connection, I guess, the main leap in logic would have to be something like, oh, hey, Dracula is from Transylvania. Vlad Tepes was in charge of, oh god, I actually don't know, Wallachia? which I believe is either in Transylvania or adjacent to it. Basically, they're from the same country. They're from basically the same corner of the globe. So the leap in logic was not hard to make, but at the same time, it's like, guys, I don't think you should have done that. Francis Ford Coppola, you probably shouldn't have done that, because that man is still considered a national hero, and you basically just turned him into a horrifying night creature.
Yeah.
I don't think they appreciate that.
I don't know if he was seeking immortality or it just became a part of what he was involved in.
I think part of it, I guess it depends on the mythos, because I have seen certain tales of Dracula where he seeks immortality not because he wants to live forever, but because, I don't know, to spite God for, his loved, like in the movie, his loved one who, I don't want to get into the reasons because that...
no, I mean, he just exists, but he doesn't know how to not exist.
Yeah, ultimately, all of these stories, he doesn't actively seek vampirism and or immortality. It's just like you said, he just gets to the point where he exists and he no longer knows how to not exist.
Right.
Loses whatever so-called divine right to die. It's not that he's immortal per se. He just doesn't die.
Yes.
Ever. He keeps coming back, just like in the Castlevania series. But anyway, basically, Lilu comes through. Back to the Fifth Element. Lilu comes through. They annihilate. Corbin kisses her. She comes through. They annihilate.
Yes.
The big ball of death.
The big ball of evil death.
And then they take him back to the capsule that Lilu was broken out of, because that's the only way to repair her wounds. And they start making out in there. We don't know it till the last end of the movie, and that's it.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to segue into immortality and Dracula, but well, there we are.
There you are.
We'll probably talk about it later, or maybe in the past.
I don't know. We'll get to it. We'll give it a shot one of these days, I'm sure. I mean, we've watched enough Dracula stuff.
I have. Yeah, enough Dracula stuff.
Yeah.
So,
So the movie ends with Lilu and Corbin in the genetic particle accelerator.
Yeah, whatever the heck
to
that
repair
is.
their wounds, to repair them, and apparently they start exchanging fluids. And there's an ending shot with a very nice soundtrack behind it. Corbin Dallas kissing Lilu, and then it just frees.
And there you go.
The Fifth Element.
Finally.
Like I said in the very beginning of this, we're going to tell you everything, but you will understand nothing.
Just like JoJo, you can't understand until you watch it.
You got to watch it. I mean, it's so
good. Watch it.
It's one of those elemental movies that you could watch anytime. You could watch regularly. There's certain movies that once you see them,
they stay with you.
They stay with you. There's certain movies that you watch that you could watch and forget about, and take years. You go, oh hey, but Fifth Element is one of those. Fifth Element is a regular on streaming services and on satellite services.
Oh yeah.
You see it quite often.
Watch it.
It's good stuff. It's good stuff. Very well done for what it is. And it's serious enough to get you involved. It's very thought-provoking. You get into the whole existence thing. Should we be here? Should we not be here? I mean,
apparently it takes aliens to save us for some reason.
Yes.
That always tripped me up. It's
yes,
like, what
that's
the heck?
always like, where do you guys come from? But it works.
Oh yeah,
It works very well.
Watch it.
Watch it.
Do it.
Do it.
So good.
So
and of
good.
course, leave comments of whether or not you liked it. Of course.
Yeah.
All that fun stuff.
All that fun stuff.
So, yeah, you got anything else to add?
Not particularly, I don't believe I do.
Yeah, because I've kind of run out of words. I kind of had this weird... Actually, I haven't run out of words, but for some reason my mind wandered into a different territory, so...
Yes.
Well...
And that's what we're here for.
Uh-huh. I guess that's it. I was your host, Bel-E.
And, I was your co-host, Mr. Scratch.
And we'll see you next Tuesday, dear listeners.
Dear listener, next Tuesday.
Bye.
Bye.